everyone, I'm Rachel here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 290, and we're asking, how can accountability buddies work together? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. And if you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For this, you'll get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, and it all helps to support the show. But if that's not your style and you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already, and consider dropping us a like if you're watching on YouTube. So what is an accountability buddy? I don't think I really need to explain this, but I will anyway for the sake of it. An accountability buddy is a friend who helps keep you accountable for your work. And it's essentially like a partner, not a co-author, but a partner or a friend that will help boost your morale, if you will, while you write your novel. And the whole point of accountability buddies is that it's a two-way street. While they boost you, you boost them in return. And that's pretty much it. And I think we've talked about this before in another podcast, I think. I don't really remember. We might have touched upon it here and there. So I won't go too deep into, what accountability buddies are. We want to talk about how they can work together. Ari wrote how to choose a partner. I'll let her explain that one.
Did I? I have no memory.
These are your notes.
Are they all my notes?
They're all your notes. Really? I got them out of Trello.
Wow, I was being really efficient while also having zero memory of it. Love brain fog. Okay, yeah, so let's talk about choosing a partner. I am winging this because, as I said, I don't remember writing that note. But yeah, your partner choice is kind of important, I think. It needs to be somebody that you can trust, that you can count on. You don't want to pick somebody flaky. Now, obviously, you might not know they're flaky, especially if you're like a high productive person. You don't want to find someone who's always like, like, yeah, I'll be there eventually, or oh, I'm gonna miss this one, doing it all the time. So you want someone who's very similar to you. That needs to be something. You also want to keep an eye on things like, because the whole point of accountability is to like make sure that the other person is holding you accountable to your writing and that you're doing the same to them. So you need to be on the same wavelength about what you're doing, and you need to be really clear about that, because you don't want to be, turning into a bit of a drill sergeant with the other person, and they're not expecting that. They thought everything was going to be a bit easier, because then you might end up losing a friend or causing a rift or anything like that. So I don't think it's a case of just find the first person you know who's a writer and say, let's be accountability buddies. It might work that way, but I think there should be some thought put into it. I think if you're working on similar sized projects, that doesn't always mean something. I mean, you can work on totally different things, but if you're wanting someone to keep you accountable for a large project and the other person's only writing small projects, maybe they're writing like poetry or something like that that's completely different to what you're writing, it might mean that if you're both working on books, but their poetry book is finished quicker because maybe they only need like 20 poems and they're actually going through pretty well, and you're writing a giant mammoth of a book, might be a bit different. You can end up, obviously, you might not need to be as accountable to them after they're finished, and you need to know that person's still going to be working with you with your accountability. So yeah, I would put a bit of thought into choosing the partner, how close you are to them, how connected you are, the sort of like similar personalities, so that you're not going to both be like frictiony against each other is quite helpful. And obviously set out on the same page. Like that page.
Nice pun there. Also, while you were speaking, I went on to Trello to look at our notes, and yeah, I did write these notes. Only the last bullet.
It wasn't me. I'm sort of thinking like, I have brain fog. I get it. I'm getting older, but geez, it's not usually that bad where I've like completely blanked out everything.
Sitting here gaslighting Ari. I genuinely don't even remember writing these notes, but apparently, yeah, I did. And so
you don't remember it so much that you put it onto me. Love it.
Yeah, okay, so well, I just assumed. Sorry. Anyway, I think I do agree with what Ari says about choosing a partner. I think it's one of those things where you do need to have a little bit of trial and error. there probably will be some accountability buddies that you have that just won't work. And it's difficult to do over the internet, especially because sometimes people just fall off the face of the earth, or you might get ghosted. And there could be many reasons for that. It might not be because they just genuinely ghosted me. Something could have happened to them wherever they are. And it's hard to work with people over the internet because you just don't know. You don't know what the rest of their life is like. And it's difficult to do that. But I think when it comes to choosing a partner, most of the time it should come easy. I think you'll probably just network with certain writers, and there will be a handful of people, or maybe one or two people that you just happen to click with. And those are the people that you know that would make great accountability buddies if you guys can just talk to each other like you've been old friends and like you've known each other for your entire lives. And I do want to make a note that you don't have to write in the same genre. You don't have to target the same audience. You don't need to find an accountability buddy that writes the same type of stuff as you do. And Ari just kind of mentioned that if you're writing a long novel and somebody's writing a poetry book and they finish theirs before yours, are they still going to be your accountability buddy? It doesn't have to fall under just writing, because while you're still working on your novel, they're going to be working on marketing. And I'm sure they're going to have a marketing plan. And there are going to be certain things that they need to do, like creating social media posts and imagery and updating, making sure that their website is updated, things like that. And that's when you can say, hey, you said you were going to update this page on your website, and I see that it's not updated. What are you doing? Okay. I mean, be nice about it, but if you're me and Ari, you can yell at each other. So there are all these different things that you can keep each other accountable for. It's not just the writing process. It's not just the writing, it's the process as a whole. It's the whole journey. And it's not always just saying, hey, did you do this? Or, hey, I did this. I met my goal. Now I'm going to move on to this. It's having a conversation with each other and talking about the process and talking about your journey, and really just having a discussion so that it's not a lonely process. I think that's a huge point of accountability buddies that people miss over. They think it's just, you're here to help me get my work done. But no, they're also there as a friend and as a colleague and as just someone to lend an ear if you have writer's block and you're feeling stuck. And it's a friend who just also happens to be writing a novel.
Yeah, actually, that is great. I agree with all that. I think it all comes down to just being clear, because you don't want to both come in going, yeah, we're going to help each other write our books. And then poetry book gets done quicker. Not saying it does, obviously, as someone who used to write poetry, it's not like it all comes really easily. Sometimes you can be struggling with that. But say you have a short poetry book and a long novel. Yeah. So Rachel's 100% right. If you've got extra work, but I think it needs to be clear up front that it's as long as one person's writing or doing work in something, then you are accountable for that sort of time frame, or you work out on the time frame. I think that you should always avoid assumptions like, oh, I assume that we're going to be accountability buddies until I've finished this or done this. Be really clear and don't assume that the other person is like the same as what you're thinking, because they might literally be like, once my poetry book's done, that's us. We don't need to be accountability anymore. So yeah, be clear, and then you can work with that completely. So yeah, Rachel's right.
And this is where regular check-ins come into play. This is one of the ways that accountability buddies can work together and help each other, is if you have weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins, even monthly check-ins, if that works better with your schedule. And these check-ins are just you and your accountability buddies. You don't have to have just one. You could have multiple. There could be a group of you if you want. These check-ins just include you guys saying what you worked on, what you accomplished, what you weren't able to accomplish, and just, again, like I said, have a conversation about what you want to work on and what your goals are, what your aims are, and just boost each other up. If they accomplish something, that's great, cheer for them. If they didn't get to finish something that they meant to finish, you can still cheer for them. They still made progress. And I mean, that's the whole point. It's just working together. I keep saying, I'm trying to think of another word for accountability, but I can't think of it. So it's just working together to keep each other accountable. That sounds so dumb, but that's what this episode's about. So here we are.
No, but I think you're right with that. What you said, like it's because there's going to be times in your whatever journey you're doing where you need the accountability, where someone might be struggling more, and sometimes you need that kind of like cheerleading. So it might not just be, have you done it or anything? Having that someone just being like, I believe in you, you can do this. Or even like a little bit of a brainstorming situation where you can even like talk about what the problem is to help you get back on track. I know it's kind of like a critique point or anything, but your accountability buddy, if you agree with, if you talk to them about it and say like, if this happens, can we talk about it? I mean, it's community, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. Community and connection and someone who's got your corner and who's going to help you with it. And those little points where if you're struggling, especially if someone's going, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, you're like, I haven't done anything. It could be really disheartening, but it's not about them telling you how great they're doing. You need that little like, yay. So yeah, it's building community.
Yeah, no, exactly. You explained that so much better than I could. If you can tell, I don't remember writing my own notes. So here we are. Ari is still doing much better than me anyway. But I think one of the ways you can share your progress, and it's not just about sharing your progress, as we just mentioned, it's all about, building a community with each other and having a conversation. But if you want to share your progress with each other, it's fun to have like little progress charts, and you can keep track of your progress in, many different ways. And we laugh about this because Ari and I tried this, when we first started the podcast. We were like, we meet every single Tuesday. Why not be accountability buddies for our writing and stuff? So we made sticker charts because we both love stickers, and we made a chart in Canva, and we each printed it out. And every single Tuesday, we would show each other our sticker charts in the camera. And 9 times out of 10, there would be no stickers on them. And it got to a point where we were excited to say, hey, guess what I did? Nothing. And it turned into like a running joke. And at some point, it just fizzled out. I think it lasted a month. Those sticker charts, I think the sticker charts lasted a month, and that was it. I don't remember when we stopped. It just kind of fizzled out, and neither one of us said anything, because I think, I can't speak for Ari, but for me, I was like, if I bring it up, she's going to be like, oh, well, what did you do? And I'll be like, well, nothing, actually. And then she's going to be like, well, then what's the point? Why are we doing this? It's a two-way street. You really got to work together to make sure that not only you're working on your goals, but they're working on their goals. And it's okay if neither one of you get anything done in a week or 2 weeks or a month. That's going to happen. But the point is that you're in it together.
Yes, yes. And we were in it badly together, weren't we?
We really were.
But to be honest, that's an interesting point though. It's like, even if you think it could work, because you're like, me and Rachel have a great dynamic. That's why we're doing the podcast. That's why it's lasted 5 years. But we hit a really bad run. There was a lot going on. We must have both had a really bad time. And it was just uncomfortable by the end, where neither of us managing to do anything. And it was like, what is this? What is the point? This is just getting silly. So it doesn't always work out with the way you hope it will. But at the same time, like, we're actually really good accountability buddies with the podcast. So we might not do it for writing, but we are shit hot when it comes to the podcast. We catch each other with things. We're checking in. Rachel and her mad emails and her agenda that she sets and her writing notes and then lying and saying it's my notes and making me think things while I'm just like not planning it. If it doesn't work in one sense, it doesn't mean it doesn't work in another sense. So like as I said, we have a great accountability for the podcast. Maybe we're a bit crap with our writing, but the podcast, we are brilliant at it for accountability. So, and if you want to be an accountability buddy and you don't think it's going to work with the writing or something creative, there's a million other things. You could literally be like accountable to like tidying your room or decluttering your house. It doesn't matter what it's about. If you want to build that bit of community, it can be something else. So don't just assume it has to be about writing, because this is a writing podcast that we're talking to as writers, and you're writers. I'm assuming most of you are writers if you're listening to this. So yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Literally everything that Ari just said is facts. And I concur. One of the ways that you can work together with your accountability buddy is to have a combined word or page count, or it doesn't even have to be word or page count, like just have a goal. And then when that goal is met, you guys can do something special. That's why Ari and I had sticker charts. You'd get a sticker. It didn't work.
To be fair, it might have been because I have a massive aversion to using stickers. I love stickers, but I'm one of these like object permanence people where once a sticker is used, it's like, oh no, it's been used. and I get upset about that. And there obviously must be other people like this, because there's such thing as a sticker book, where it's literally where you can peel stickers off, put them on, and then re-peel them off again. And the fact that that even exists means there's more people like me who are like, don't use stickers, I can't use them, even though that's what they're literally designed for.
No, I do the same thing. I have a whole packet of stickers that I haven't used yet because I don't know where to put them, because that's a big decision where to put stickers. I want to like put stickers on my keyboard and things like that. But then eventually I know that the keyboard is going to get old or it's going to break and I'm going to have to get rid of it. And then I lose those stickers. So rather than enjoying them for the next 25 years on my keyboard, I'm just not going to use them.
I get it though, because like I'm gonna just it's like Ari's story time. When I was little, like little, I remember I had a backpack for school, and I got a really cool sticker from the dentist, because our dentists don't hand out candy. It was like you got a sticker if you were lucky, and it was like a hologrammatic, iridescently
Holographic?
kind of holographic. That's the word, holographic sticker. And this is like back in the 80s. That's really impressive. And it had like a panther's head snarling, and I loved it, and I put it on my backpack, and I was convinced it made me run really fast. I don't know why, but it wasn't even a cheetah, it was a frigging panther. And I had it on my backpack for ages, and then obviously I got older and the backpack got worn and it had to be thrown, and I tried to peel the sticker off and it didn't come off, it started to rip. And it was just like, well, it's got to go in the bin with the rest of it. And I absolutely felt crushed. See, I actually had this such a strong memory. I remember where this issue with using up stickers came from, and it affected my entire life about stickers. So yeah, it's heart-wrenching when you have to use stickers and then maybe have to throw them away. So you just keep them on the sticker pack in your cupboard where you never see them. This is not an episode about stickers. We really need to go off this.
But see, this is a good example of accountability buddies, because not every time you talk to your accountability buddy will be about work. Sometimes it'll be like this. And this is when you know you have a good accountability buddy, when you can just shoot the shit like this. Obviously, you want to be productive. You got to have some productive sessions every now and then, but not every session will be productive. And that's okay too. So this is a prime example. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm sure you could probably rattle off a good chunk of episodes where we talk about our topic for 10 minutes and then we whiffle on for like 40 minutes about nothing. And in this case, it's stickers.
But it was really important stuff.
It isn't. It is. And that's a really sad story. And I'm sorry that that happened to your sticker.
In fact, there was a part you felt it, didn't you? You felt it.
Yes. Yeah. Away. I mean, I got stickers from my dentist too, but they weren't holographic.
I know, right? I think that's what made it so special. I'd never had one. It was like I must have gone through something where I didn't like, try and bite them or something. And he gave me this like really cool sticker, and it was like, wow, special sticker.
I know. That's really special.
Really special. Made me run fast. Never run fast again. Sticker's gone. I can't run anymore.
Oh gosh. It's a magical sticker.
It is a magical. It looked very magical. Very magical. Oh, you can see where I went.
God, this episode. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm not cutting anything out.
No, I don't think you should. It should all stay in. My quick thought about a lot of this is, you need to be comfortable with your accountability buddy, and there needs to be some part of it that serves you, and obviously it serves them too. Just because you want it to work, if it doesn't work, don't force it. If it gets to the point where it's like, if the other person isn't helping you be accountable, or even if you're just clashing and things aren't going well, you have to be okay with letting it go. Don't just think like, well, I'll just pick a friend, write a friend, and we'll do it and it'll work out. If it doesn't and it's not serving you, don't force it. Try and work on it. Obviously, there might be something you can do to work on it. It might be some scheduling issue, or some something might be going on, but don't push it if it's not working. It's like the whole point of this thing is to build community and help have support and have accountability. If you aren't getting that, then find somebody else. And it shouldn't destroy a friendship, or it shouldn't destroy a connection to another writer or anything like that, or whoever you are using it. So don't try and be amicable about it, but yeah, don't put yourself in a position where it's like carrying on. I mean, I've seen that with other things, not always accountability, but I've seen it with other things where people have been like, oh, I'm in a writing group, and it has not served them. And they're like, yeah, I'm not really getting anything out of it. It's making me really stressed. Like, well, why are you still there? If it's not working, find another, or just do something else. It's like, don't put yourself in that position. And two other quick points. my first accountability buddy was back when I was like in my early 20s, and we were accountability buddies without realizing it, because we didn't like check in and say like, how have you done? What we would do is we would write our stories, and then when we met up on like I think it was a Friday, we would send each other what we'd written, and then we would be each other, almost like each other's editor, and be like, oh my god, I really like this. And it was weird. It was almost like a serialization, because they were getting pieces of the next story, which if you heard last week's episode, you'll know what we're talking about. And that was interesting, and it was quite useful because you knew that the other person was going to be sending you something to read, so you kind of felt the need that you had to get yours done, because otherwise there was a bit of a like an unbalanced dynamic, and I found that really useful. And that feedback, I got instant feedback, and we got the accountability of like, right, I need to get my story written because they're going to be writing their story, and we're going to switch them over, and that was really useful. And the other one is a recent one I did. I say recent, I think this is going out in October, and this would have happened in May. So recent for when we were recording it. I actually connected with a writer online who I had never met before. I found them on Instagram, and she was talking about how she wanted to help a push to finish her book, and she needed accountability buddies. And she literally just opened it out to everyone and said, right, I need 50 accountability buddies, or 50 sessions. Who wants to be my accountability buddy? And I was obviously feeling very personable and less, introverted, not wanting to speak to anyone. And I reached out and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And it was literally a quick Zoom session. And it started with 5 minutes of just what are you going to be working on today? And then 55 minutes of working at the same time. And then 5 minutes at the end saying, like, how did it go? That was it. And in a way, it was still accountability. It might not have been the same level of accountability you get with a real buddy that you do over and over. Although I think I did several sessions with this author. And I found it really useful because it was like we had a very specific schedule. We booked a day and a time, and I knew that if I didn't show up, it was messing her schedule up, because obviously she could have booked somebody else. And it really forced me to like, right, I've got to sit down and do this hour of writing. And I did. And I wrote quite a bit in the sessions I had with her. But yeah, so there's little pockets like that. So if you're not even sure about starting with accountability, you might find pockets like that where someone's like, hey, I want to write some stuff. Do you want to do something together? We'll do it on a Zoom call, just like that. And it can really help. Just something small like that before you start into something bigger with a full accountability buddy that's going to be there a lot longer and more often.
No, I think that's an excellent point, because when we talk about accountability buddies, we keep saying about having weekly check-ins and whatnot, but we didn't really touch upon the fact that you can work with them. It's not that you have to do everything on your own and then you just go to them and say, I did this, what did you do? It's you can also have that community and work together. And depending on, now I know with your sessions in particular, you guys put yourself on mute and you did what you needed to do, and then you talked about it after. But if you're doing something in person, or if you have a large group or something like that, or if you're doing it through Discord, for example, you can be working on something and then send a quick message and say, hey, I'm trying to write this sentence. Does it make sense? I need a new word for this. I need a character name for this person, in that is also accountability buddies. That's also still working together. It's also still having that community and building that trust with other writers. I think that's another huge thing, is that accountability buddies, you need to build that trust with them, for your sake and for theirs as well, because writing it's a very vulnerable endeavor. It doesn't matter if you're writing a memoir, or if you're writing fiction, it's still vulnerable, and it's very difficult for us to share our creative work. And I think it's really important for us to have those accountability buddies, to have a safe person to share that work with.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it is a vulnerable thing. It is. And like if you're doing accountability where you're just doing weekly check-ins, that is great, and that definitely helps depending on schedule or time zone. Like me and Rachel, we have very specific work outside of our podcast time, so we have this specific time when we do our recordings. But because we're in very different time zones, it's not always easy to just go, yeah, let's jump on and do a session. Whereas if you are able to have like a weekly session where you can actually connect to someone on Zoom and do a writing session together, that can really help. But obviously, don't force that either, because if you can't, You know, it's lucky if you can find someone who's in a time zone that's close enough to you, or if they're not in the time zone that's close enough to you, that when their time zone and your time zone line up and you've both got space, because that is so difficult. And we know, because we have guests all over the world, and sometimes trying to get them to line up with our time zone and the time zone we've got is such a difficult thing. It really is.
Especially since Rachel can't do math when it comes to time zones.
I never said that. I thought it loudly, but I never said
I'm
that.
saying it because time zones are stupid, but I digress. Basically, I think in a nutshell, to kind of sort of wrap this up, that accountability buddies can look different for everybody. And the way you and your accountability buddy work together will look different from how you work with somebody else, or how those two other writers all the way over there work together. There's no right or wrong way to have an accountability buddy, as long as you trust each other, you guys are good friends, you have good communication, and you follow through with each other. Like, you follow through with what you say you're going to do for them, and vice versa. And I think that's about it, because Ari, you mentioned this earlier about how you had an accountability buddy without even realizing it. And I think we've all had that, because when I was growing up, I had a friend, we used to write on fanfiction.net together. And whenever we had play dates, we would act out our stories before we wrote them. And we would have we would have each other as the audience and make suggestions and say, oh, and then after that, this could happen. And we just had a good time with it. And in a weird way, she was my accountability buddy. And even now, I go to Barnes and Noble once a week with my sister and my cousins, and we all work on our stories together. And some days we don't work at all. We just chit chat. But that's fine too. Other times when we do chit chat, we're not actually working, but we're still talking about our writing. And that, in a weird way, is still working on your writing. So it looks different for everybody. And some weeks are going to be better than others. And unfortunately, some accountabilities aren't going to last forever. But you gotta take it in stride, and again, trial and error, see what works for you, and you gotta work together with them.
I concur.
Beautiful. All right, before we leave, because I have nothing else to say, before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, and opportunities to be a guest on the show, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. And now we'll turn it over to you guys. Do you have an accountability buddy? How do you help each other? Share some stories in the comments, and we'd love to hear them, and we'll chat about them. I am so sorry for this episode, but we release a new one every Wednesday. Next week, we're discussing writing fantasy characters. So to ensure you don't miss that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thanks for listening to the My Writer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Another New Notebook, just because. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons.